hot, hot, hot. Feeling hot, hot, hot.
Welcome back to another Fireside Chat. Glad to have you along this week. This week, in fact, a few things a little bit different. I'm broadcasting to you again from my studio office, and although I have Wilson to talk to here, and my fish as well, I'd rather hear from you. So this week, I would appreciate you going on to the Fireside Chat blog or sending me an email. Do you have a question that's burning in your mind about God, about the intersection of life and faith? Is there a Bible verse you would really like reflected upon here at the Fireside Chat? Is there a miscellaneous question, maybe something fun that you'd like to ask? I'd love to hear from you and have an opportunity to interact with your thoughts. But before we get to that next week, this week, something a little bit different. I want to show you 3 different video clips, a little bit lighter this week. I'll ask you to pause the Fireside Chat video to answer a couple of questions, to do some of your own reflection on these video clips, either by yourself or maybe with others in your home. To reflect upon those video clips, then come back here, push play. I'll share a few thoughts. We'll move on to the next clip. I really want to have an opportunity for you this week to interact with the material that's being shared. But before we get to the 3 video clips, I want to offer a few thoughts on Earth Day in light of the book of Genesis. Well, it was Earth Day this week. Kind of a celebration in many ways, maybe a celebration online more than anything else this year. Earth Day, like so many things in our culture, has become a bit politicized. No surprise in our current culture where it seems like everything is politicized in one way or another. Earth Day's become a little politicized. It's also become a rather confused day of a sort of nature worship that seems to get expressed. Yet, Earth Day remains a wonderful time to remember that we as Christians are called to be good stewards of the environment, good stewardship. In fact, from the very beginning, in the book of Genesis, the Bible calls human beings to be good stewards of the earth, to be good stewards of God's creation. And so I want to take a look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, as a mandate to all who follow God. Genesis 1:26 says, "Then God said, 'Let us make humankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground.'" Genesis 1:26 uses a Hebrew verb that's translated here as to rule over. It could also be translated as to have dominion over or to subdue. That verb is used 27 times in the Old Testament. Many times it's translated with a meaning of to supervise, to oversee, with a meaning of to care for. King Solomon is said to rule over many lands, and he brings peace to the lands. So it's possible to rule over, to have dominion in a way that brings peace and harmony. In Genesis, this word, I think, is meant to mean stewardship, supervision that brings harmony and peace to creation. We as human beings are to have stewardship over God's good creation, to care for it. In Exodus 20 in the 10 Commandments, remember, animals are even given a Sabbath rest. We're supposed to care for the animals that are in our charge. Genesis reminds us that we as human beings have stewardship over creation. Genesis goes on to give us these words. "Now the Lord God had formed out of the ground all the wild animals and all the birds in the sky. He brought them to the man to see what he would name them, and whatever the man called each living creature, That was its name. So the man gave names to all the livestock, the birds in the sky, and all the wild animals. Genesis 2 asserts that naming is claiming. Throughout the Bible, God seems very interested in the names of people. He renames Abram, Abraham, Sarai to Sarah, Jacob to Israel. In the New Testament, God asserts, "You will call him John," and tells Joseph, "You will name him Emmanuel," God with us. Naming is claiming. When God names someone in the Bible, God is asserting, "You're mine, and I will care for you." When God gives the man the duty of naming all the creatures, the man asserts, naming is claiming, "I will care for you." Genesis is very revolutionary. God is very revolutionary in asserting that human beings are to have stewardship over the earth. We don't just use up the earth's resources and use up the creatures. That we in fact supervise them and have stewardship over them. Naming is claiming, "You're mine, I will care for you." Now we are to use the resources of the earth that God has given us, but we're to use them in a conservationist way. The Judeo-Christian ethic asserted for the first time a conservationist ethic. Now, how do we go about doing that? That becomes the challenge and the debate. But it's not an option for those of us who follow God to be conservationists, to be good stewards of God's creation. All right, so here's your first video clip. This is from the movie Bruce Almighty, and Bruce is holding on to some prayer beads that his girlfriend has given him. The questions to consider: what does this clip say to you? What does this say about your spiritual journey, your walk, your conversation with God? Let's take a look.
I'm gonna talk to you. And talk back. Tell me what's going on. What should I do? Give me a signal. Need your guidance, Lord. Please send me a sign. Oh, what's this joker doing now? Open your eyes, idiot! Okay. All right. I'll try it your way. All right? Lord? I need a miracle. I'm desperate. I need your help. Please reach into my life. What the? Oh, yeah. Got ya!
Bruce says, "Send me a sign, give me a sign." Seems like he got a lot of signs, and he missed them all. What does that say to us about our faith walk? What is God showing you that you might have missed? The Bible asserts that God opens our eyes and ears. So if God sends us signs and communications and guidance, why are we sometimes so clueless? I remember having a radio in my car, one of those old tuning AM/FM radios, and you had to dial it just right to get the clear signal. Not so good an analogy these days in our digital radios, but we want to tune in to God's signal. We want to find a clearer way for God to communicate with us, and we do that through our prayer life, through our Bible reading, through our spiritual growth, we're better able to tune into what God is showing us, because God does give us signs and guidance. Will we see them? The next clip comes from the television show Taxi. Louis, the dispatcher, has been terribly dishonest. He's lied, he's cheated, and yet somehow he's come out ahead and he has a golf tee time with the boss. Questions for us. Why be honest at all?
Riga, you want to have a drink with me?
No, I just came back to get my jacket.
Well, Riga, you gotta help me. You gotta help me.
What do you want?
I've been trying to sort this thing out. I mean, I stole. I lied. I betrayed a friend. And now I got extra money in the bank and a 9 o'clock tee-off time on Saturday.
Go ahead, Louis.
Now, Riga, no, you gotta help me. No, explain to me what it's like to be honest. I mean, because if I had a chance to do that all over again, I'd like to know one reason why I shouldn't.
I can't explain the feeling I get from being honest. I mean, it's like trying to explain April in Paris. You can't understand it unless you've been there.
Oh, I understand April in Paris. It's like having Havana cigars, a great drink of booze, and being off scot-free. That's April in Paris, Riga. Let's face it, Riga, crime pays. You know, people go around thinking that if they do something bad, then something bad has got to happen to them. Well, I'm living proof that that is not true. No answer? No answer from the honest man? Yeah.
Where you going?
Okay.
What, do you got some little hiding place up there, Louis?
Yeah, I gotta play for my stuff.
Okay, Louis, you see? That's the price you have to pay. Because you're a thief. You have to go through life believing that everybody else is a thief. That's why you have to hide your stash in some crummy little ad docs. Boy, you lead a real crummy little life, you know that? You're a frightened man, Louis.
You're grasping at straws, Riga. You know what it's like in this garage? There's a thief every 4 inches.
Hey, what about me, Louis? What about me, huh? Aren't you afraid I'm going to steal your stuff? I know where you're hiding it.
You? The honest man? Nah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. You do what you do, and I do what I do. Well,
Good night, Riga.
The Honest Man, April in Paris. This clip offers a few things for us to consider, the first of which is the idea that there is a price to be paid for everything. Louis seems to come out ahead, but Alex points out to him there's a price to be paid for his dishonesty. Louis is a dishonest man, and he grows to believe that everyone else is dishonest. What a wretched way to go through life. There's a price to be paid for dishonesty, sometimes a tremendous price. It erodes the soul. It erodes our decency. But we should also admit there's a price to be paid for being honest. For instance, Maybe we won't be the salesman of the year because we refuse to push and to sell people things we know they don't need. There's a price to be paid for being honest. Sometimes we don't come out ahead, at least not in the short term. But being honest, embracing truth, improves relationships, it improves our society, and it's consistent with what our moral God expects from us. If we want to walk in the footsteps of Jesus, we need to embrace the truth. A seminary professor of mine wrote a book a while back and said, "Our culture is suffering from truth decay." Too many of us let our own agenda, our politics, our wants, and our needs get ahead of what is true. As Christians, we should be truth tellers, those who embrace truth in loving ways, so that we can help walk in the footsteps of Jesus to create a world that embraces truth and love and decency. Scripture affirms this. The next clip is a rather famous one. It's been seen over 80 million times across the world. It's affected some real change. The questions before you take a look at it are, what do you see going on in this video? Is there more to the story than just what you see happening? Is there a bigger theme at work? I hope you enjoy.
I don't mind where you come from, as long as you come to me. But I don't like illusions, I can't see them clearly. I don't care, no, I wouldn't dare to fix the twist in you. You've shown me eventually what you'll do. I don't mind, I don't care, as long as you're here. Go ahead, tell me you'll leave again. You'll just come back running, holding your scarred heart in hand. It's all the same, and I'll take you for who you are. If you take me for everything, do it all over again. It's all the same. Hours slide and days go by till you decide to come. However long you stay is all that I am. I don't mind, I don't care, as long as you're here. Go ahead, tell me you'll leave again. You'll just come back running, holding your scarred heart in hand. It's all the same, and I'll take you for who you are. If you take me for everything, do it all over again. It's always the same.
This video gets me emotionally every time. It has a mysterious power to it. Maybe that's because it's so reflective of the ministry of Jesus. Think about it. Even our central character in this video looks a little bit like Jesus. He's an unknown person, a stranger, who steps out onto the public stage to offer a kind of new love, a new way of expressing God's love. And what's the response that he gets? People are suspicious. They don't know what to think. They question him. They wonder. In the Bible, they ask, isn't this Joseph's son from Nazareth? Who's he? In the video, our main character is seen with a lot of suspicion. People walk by, they don't know what to think, until a small older woman steps up and receives a free hug, and the video goes to color. Just as Jesus brings fresh air and new light and color to the world. And this one hug becomes another, and suddenly our main figure is gathering a following, and a lot of people respond, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So much so that it begins to threaten the authorities. The people in power rise up and try to squash it. They try to kill the message. But the message is too big. It rises up again and builds, and love spreads to the point at which we reach the end of the video, where one of his followers embraces the police officer. Those in power have even come to see this new love as a joy. Do you remember the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray? Do you remember how Bill Murray goes through the same day over and over and over again? His life is in a loop. Maybe we're experiencing a little bit of that right now. It seems like every day is the same. What day is this? What week is it? We're in a little bit of a Groundhog Day. Do you remember how Bill Murray breaks out of that cycle? It's when he begins to stop focusing on himself and starts thinking about the needs of others, reaching out to others. In some ways, offering free hugs to others. Eventually, we'll break out of this cycle of every day seemingly being the same. And we'll have a chance to show Christ's love in some new ways. When I look at this video, I'm a little bit saddened too to think we don't get to do that for the time being. We can't go out and just offer hugs to strangers. And so when we emerge from this kind of Groundhog Day that we're experiencing, we may have to come up with some new ways to experience and to share the love of Christ. Just like our central figure in the video, we may have to step out in new ways to show the love of Christ. People may be suspicious at first, but if we're reflecting the love of Christ, it will grow, and people will be changed. I hope that's true for all of us. Have a great week. I'll see you back here next week for another Fireside Chat.
Feeling hot, hot, hot. Feeling hot, hot.